Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's guests are Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show.
Having me on again.
Great to see you. And also Professor Dan Fleetwood. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi, Sasha. Hi, Ken. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. And of course, today we are going to talk exclusively about Zinkfield Cup, which is the premier event of the year. And Firouzja was unstoppable, and not only by score, but his games of the highest quality. Regan, Professor Regan, what do you think?
Well, yes. Well, the key game, what ultimately was the decisive game in round one against Caruana, was actually very wild. Um, we should note, though, that getting out to +3, 5-2, 4 wins, 3 losses after 7 rounds is really hard against a field of this caliber, and it also sewed up first place in the overall Grand Chess Tour for Firouzja. So that's a great return to form after he had such difficulty in the candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we will look at Caruana and Firouzja game.
Right. This was a wild game in which both players had chances. So I'm actually going to share it to the tab. But oh wait, do I know? What's funny actually is the screen does not show me which tab it is. All right, so I will actually share to my entire screen and see check that nothing bad happens here. Okay, so now are you seeing Caruana Firouzja?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah, when I share the entire screen, it takes longer for some reason.
Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, great.
That's right. Okay, so Caruana White, round one. Are the players going to fight or take a steady draw? They definitely fight. They fight, however, in the Gioco Piano type
No,
idea.
knight G5 in a single game. How many Jokopianos was there? Nobody played knight G5.
That's right. Yeah, the standard main line of the two knights defense could have been.
You just have to know too much book, and if you know the book, you get a draw, and if you don't know the book, you get rolled.
Yeah, that could be the case. Plus, I used to play the line where white plays d4 and then bishop b5 and captures on c6. And I always thought that was a positionally great way to play. And then Engine showed me I was going into positions that were 0.4 advantage to black. So,
Right.
My.
so that's so wonder why I couldn't always keep control of that. Okay, so we play. So this is the hyperventilating on the queen side arm of this opening. And about 10 moves from now, there's going to be an interesting aspect of this. The undevelopment of white's bishop on c1 is going to become a factor. In these positions, black has a choice between a6 and a5. They change the calendar of the games. I would always go a5 myself. Now this is actually going to be very harmonious on both sides. So both sides have found a way to break the problem of the bishop g5, bishop g4 pin. Okay, so in black's case, there's already a knight shielding the queen, so the pin doesn't necessarily accomplish much right away. And in white's case, white is going to just defend the knight with the knight so as not to incur double pawns. And then after black does the pin, we just play queen c2. And problem solved. However, white has not gotten any advantage by these means. The usual 0.3 or so pull in the opening is not happening here. And black is going to play a very nice combination to defuse the white's advantage in the center and temporarily cede the two bishops, but as said, be able to defuse them. So after two more centering moves, white decides to provoke the crisis. Okay, now black's bishop actually has to take the knight. If it goes back to e6, then d5 traps it. If it goes to h5, then, well, g4, if assuming we calculate this out, would potentially trap it. Actually, white would be better advised to bring some reinforcements back to the king first and keep g4 as a latent threat. However, black sacrifices the two bishops, I should say, and
Every 1900 in the world would have played bishop takes h3 there instead of taking the knight.
oh, that's actually, I guess, worth mention. Now, this might be where book plays a role. Okay. But so the question is White able to defend? The two obvious moves for black are, first of all, queen takes h3, and then more attractively, knight f4.
Yeah.
Okay. So knight f4, the all-seeing eye is telling me that White can defend by any means. Bishop f1, knight g5, which is tactical against f7. It might be the reason in a real game that I would reject this line.
Yep.
Or even knight f1. So let's see, knight f1. How does we'll avoid getting checkmated because you can now, that opens up the bishop to capture the knight. So black doesn't have enough material to sustain this attack. So black instead plays a very nice little combination. This seems to be seeding the center, but black is able to play d5 in this position. And this is going to establish a strong point for black's knights. Okay. And either way, and now also the fact that white's bishop is on c1, not able to help with the position, matters. So for instance, if white captures, then white has to undevelop the knight. And this is simply a very pleasant, oops, am I capturing too soon? A very pleasant position for black. Oh, black can just take this pawn. Okay. So this is even better. So in fact, that's the knight not guarding that pawn is what made this work out for black. The other way to play is to just play, but now the advantage of the two bishops is gone, and black will have a slightly better pawn structure. Again, an even game, but black has solved all the latent problems in the position. So what white does instead, after he takes e4, is Caruana played bishop b2, and this it should be noted that Caruana's clock is saying over 2 hours. So Caruana's played these moves quickly. Firouz just used 20 minutes. So anyway, in this position, white can cede a pawn because the open game and the two bishops ought to favor that. Okay, so now black is to go about deciding how to best neutralize white's bishop pair.
So we're thinking this is all Caruana's preparation and or previous games. I know that this line gets played a lot, so.
That's right. So I might believe that. I keep on forgetting to check that with Chess-Based Cloud, but yeah, it would be interesting to know if this is known. Anyway, the game does not devolve into a quick draw. Black plays strong points with the knight, and now with black's pawn on e4, it's keeping white's bishops at bay. Still in all, this is a little bit concerning for black because now white has a tempo advantage as far as developing pieces. Also, black's a5 pawn has to be watched in this position. It's not going to be so quick for black to play rook a d8 in this position. And in fact, perhaps for that reason, black played rook e d8 instead, which is taking a piece off the e5 pawn, but black's queen will be able to guard it. Now white plays more dynamically, rook f3. This is going to be part of a plan to double black's pawns and get inroads on the king side. Okay, so rook d7, rook f5, and black has this resource which deflects the attack on the e-pawn. But rook on e8 would not have helped defend the e-pawn anyway. But white now moves away the bishop, and after black makes some space for counterplay on the queen side, here comes white's plan of saddling black with double pawns and maybe attacking on the king side. So rook b8, bishop takes f6, and now white prepares to bring in the queen. And here is the first key moment in the game. Okay, so how can white judge this attack? Okay, and how can black judge how important queen h6 is going to be? So black plays rook b4, which looks like a very important restraining move of white's attack. So not only attacking a4, it's hitting the bishop. c4 is definitely the best square for the bishop. If you reach a2, then rook a4, it takes a4, hits it again. So in the game, Caruana put the bishop on a safe square, thereby taking off a key amount of pressure on black's king. But actually, as the engine reveals, Caruana could have played queen h6. So now it's a little puzzle for our audience while the moves are off the screen. White plays queen h6, sacrificing the bishop. Black captures. And then the point of white's play is to play rook f3, threatening rook g3, check and mate. Well, black is not covering the back row with either rook. However, black can stop that with rook c3. So these are the moves: queen h6, rook takes c4, rook f3, rook c3. Okay, so can you see white's move that keeps the momentum going in the attack? Now I'll play.
Rook e3 probably will do.
Yeah, rook, which rook to e3?
E1 to e3.
That is exactly right. So, so the nifty motif in this position is that white can play rook e3. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a really cute interference theme.
Yep, yep. And there are more pins and other things going on in this position. So, for instance, if black captures with the bishop, now it looks like you'd think that white could play rook g3 check because the bishop can't interpose because the pin on c3, but no, that would leave white's queen high and dry. So actually, and this may have been the hardest thing to see.
Yep.
Very quiet little move, just recapturing the bishop and building the wall, it reveals that black cannot defend the g5.
This extra rook, he's dying.
This extra rook, so you have to king h8.
That's just very cool.
Rook g3, and this is mate in 5. Black can give some spike checks, but black needs 2 moves to guard the back rank. And
that's really neat.
Yep. So the way that black needs to play in this position is to capture on e3. Now this is weird because what's going on? I think there is a hash collision error with the engine because this is the variation that's showing here simply makes no sense. It's saying rook. Okay, now it's corrected itself, but what we're showing on the screen up there is an instance phenomenon that I've actually written an article about and done research, hash collisions in chess programs. Playing the move dispels the hash collisions. So now the point is that black now has just enough time to guard the back rank because black can play bishop takes e3 check as a key deflecting move. And then after rook takes e3, black has enough time to defend the back rank, and white is with rook g8, and white has no advantage. So white actually therefore needs to stop in this position and capture. Oh yes, with king h8 and capture on d4. And now black can't recapture. Black does have to defend. And then white has a different way to attack that's very nice. Rook f5, rook h5. Initiative going. Okay. Wait, rook g8. And now here, black can't afford to recapture because it would simply allow white's queen unfettered access to black's king side. So black therefore firms up the king side, and now white keeps on attacking, and white has the advantage in this position. Has already equalized the pawns and may eventually come out a pawn ahead. So white could have gotten advantage with queen h6 after all. However, Caruana played this, and that gives black time to guard important things. So now queen h6, setting up that threat, but now black has time, having guarded f6, to meet it with queen f8. Okay, so now we get into a position where a lot of maneuvering happens, and the game is objectively equal. Black is up a pawn, but it's bishop's lost colors. White has standing threats, okay, that black can't easily deal with. So let's actually just see. Well, rook takes a4 is a move. I guess one problem with rook takes a4 is that it allows this. And then let's see, is anything bad can happen, black? No, nothing bad is going to happen. It's just that white's going to be able to come in on the queen side. Okay. So anyway, so a person with experience in chess realized that this ought to be dynamically equal. Now, the other fact of this game that needs noticing is that Firuzda burned a lot of time on decisions like Rook B4 and is down to 5 minutes. And there's not going to be a lump sum of 30 minutes at turn 40. They were given 2 hours instead of 90 minutes at the beginning of the game. Caruana is also down below 20 minutes. So the players only have the 30-second increments to add to their thinking time. So now black probes white's pawn on f2, and you'll see little verdicts. Queen d3 would have been a more accurate way to implement this idea of the pin on the d6 rook guarding the f2 pawn for the time being. And now, however, though, black could have played king g7. And this is, are you with 5 minutes able to think of things like this?
No.
The points of this move is in some key positions it guards f6 and also sometimes prevents white from checking on the back rank. In positions where black does take on f2 and sacrifice the d6 rook. So that would have given Firuzda the advantage, but this certainly natural move to get out of the pin and infiltrate on the queen side puts the game back up to dynamically equal for white. And now white actually gets the kingside pressure rolling a little. Okay, so this, the engine likes this move, likes that move for black. So maneuvering, but now white is starting to filter in. So this part of the game reminds me of what happened when computers sometimes play each other. This is objectively equal, but the pieces roll around on squares they were before, and white manages to improve more than black does and really outfoxes black in these positions. It's still dead equal. Okay, it might repeat moves. Now white is starting to mass more stuff on the king side. So if you look at this optically, it's still dead equal, but suddenly white has 2 pieces on the king side and black has none. And that sets up what they call the zone of one mistake. And the one mistake happens in a set of very natural moves. Okay, black is now defending the king side better. As said, it's going to be the zone of one mistake, and here it is. Okay, so actually what black should do is take the bull by the horns and sacrifice on d5, which also breaks the defense of c4 and enables black's the pieces to pawns to advance. Black also has a different sacrifice to take on f5, okay, and get rid of 2 of white's attackers that way, and then the king guards everything. So this maybe is the most aesthetic way to solve the immediate problems, although you're not guarding the h7 pawn, so you do have to judge how are the pawns going to race here in some positions. And the engine says white can keep a little bit of the initiative with that move. However, when you're down to less than a minute on the clock plus the increment, you can't really evaluate all the consequences of these moves. So you figure, well, I'm going to get my king out of dodge. But getting king out of dodge allows white to attack. And what white needed to do simply is just prepare. And then black doesn't really have a way to keep the position completely together. Okay, well, white raced in instead, capturing the pawn. And now black is able to counterattack, first of all, exploiting the pin on white's rook. Then again, now white's down under 4 minutes. This looks like it's going to be mate. Now, I will say we are past turn 60, and at this point, my screening scripts don't come into action for the quality of moves because I recognize something like this as likely being an Allegro finish. Okay, so now white, so it looks like black's king is going to be in mortal danger, and on the other hand, black is a pawn ahead and about to go 2 pawns ahead. So it really just comes down to tactics. Okay, so this is a good tactic to defend the king, and now black is definitely ahead, and black's king has definitely escaped, and now white is lost. So when it mattered, Firouzja outplayed Caruana, and not only that, played quickly enough to equalize the time. So now White is a little bit dead in the water in this position. And Black doesn't have to be super accurate as long as Black doesn't step into checkmate. And in this position, well, let's see. Well, oh, so actually, Black did make a very bad mistake. So Black should have played Queen C4 to cover squares on the C file, or could have captured on E4 with impunity. But pass pawns must be pushed, and this could have enabled White to keep a dynamic balance had Caruana with 2 minutes found Rook D5. How about that? It's threatening me.
Yeah, I remember looking at that position and just being stunned that opportunity was there, because it looked like that White was just well and truly dead at that point. But Rook D5, that would have been a beautiful save.
Right. And King A8, is this mate with Queen A8 check? No, it's just a perpetual.
It's a perpetual. Yeah.
It's a perpetual. Yes. Okay. So yes. So anyway, so opportunity missed. I mean,
but Rook D5. I mean, that's a hard move to see there.
So, yeah, but Rook takes B7 check is just giving.
It's yeah, that's just over now.
Yeah, and Black is able to stop checks, and White gave up. So okay, well, a lot of energy expended on that game.
It was beautiful performance by Firouzja. That was just really well played.
I can't believe that a player like Tal or Kasparov would ever play Bishop F1. It would not
not willingly.
What is your sight of the board, and how much have you been thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Still at
how much confidence do you have in your ability to see through the complexities there? Because that was a messy position.
Yeah, I'd have to. I want. Yeah, I mean, probably should look to the post game interviews to see what the players saw or didn't see.
These interviews were great.
Firouzja's play over the entire event was just really strong. Kind of like what we were expecting from him like last year.
That's true. And the point is, he brought the fight.
Yep.
There were a lot of draws, but Firouzja wasn't responsible for them. Even when he drew in round 3, he had chances. So, anyway, I'm going to show one other game, which has a very deep point to it. So this is a game between Gukesh Domaraju. So both Gukesh and Ding Liren were in the event. And it should be said that that Gukesh made 9 draws in the event. Through 6 rounds, they both had 6 draws, and they both were playing well. Even if I gave Ding Liren a rating of 2,800 instead of his super low 2,745, I have had on my meter that Ding Liren was playing positively in the tournament, but he collapsed in the last 3 rounds with 2 losses and a draw.
Yeah, there was just I think in one of the games there was just like an extraordinary oversight, and that seemed to just be collapsed after that.
Yes, that's right. Yes, he made an ill-advised exchange in the center. I think I showed this last week, and just allowed his A pawn to hang, or
right.
That must have been a different game. But anyway, the Black had set a record for consecutive draws in classical games. Maxime Vacher-Lagrave, a record that he broke when he defeated Ding in the last round. But anyway, so these 2 players are draw meisters. Let's see what they do. And I must applaud Black's first move. It is the Sicilian. So, back when I was first using computer databases, I noticed that Black's percentage with the Sicilian, 52%, was 52. Wait, why 52? But White's percentage was only 52% when Black plays the Sicilian. So I thought, why aren't more players playing for the Sicilian? Why do we have this super solid E4, E5? But anyway, MVL essays the Sicilian, And the Najdorf is a very sound defense. And we'll see, in fact, that very soon white has no advantage at all. As long as
Well, I mean, if you want an advantage, 6 bishop d3 is not the way to get it. So
that's right. Yes, that's right. So,
but if I'm playing white against MVL, I'm probably playing something like 6 bishop d3 because MVL knows all of those lines better than I do.
Yeah.
And he's one of the, maybe 2 or 3 world specialists in the Najdorf now.
Okay, good to know. So f4 is a little premature. White should castle and play some other moves first, at least so say at the engine. But Gukesh has come here to fight as well. So the engine says that black can react by d5 right away, the golden move that black tries to achieve in the Sicilian. But MVL prefers to keep the general trumps of the position. And one of those trumps is often you get access to the solid e5 square that offsets white's control over the d5 square. Okay, so white castles, it briefly looks a little scary. Okay, but black is able to castle. Got a completely solid line. White guards against any rook takes c3, disastrous possibly happening. And now begins to put the queen on other avenues where it can filter into either side of the position. Now rook d1, lining up against black's queen. And interestingly enough, MVL chooses not to oppose this, not to get the queen off the square or put a blocker in the way. Like the sturdiest move for black, I have to say, is knight fd7. Okay, overprotecting e5 and preventing what happened in the game. So black played rook e8, a very natural move when you can play it. White didn't actually play the move bishop takes a6 yet. There might be a tactical problem with it. Let's see. What's the tactical problem with that right away? Okay, so the tactical problem is actually that this does not work because black can wait. Bishop takes e5 is another hash collision. Right, this is very silly. Okay, so I don't trust the engine's line at all here. At any rate, black played rook e8, white played knight g3, and now black played g6 to stop the knight from coming in. And there was actually probably to white's advantage to be able to play bishop takes a6. Now, the point of this is that if black recaptures on a6, white just plays bishop takes e5, and rook takes d8 is what happens if black captures further. But now black plays what I showed as the sturdy move, and it turns out that black is not too unhappy being down a pawn. Well, this is mixing it up. The engine says that white should have advantage with very accurate play. But in fact, with black's pieces coming at you, it's hard for white to play very accurately in this position. And we get a tail in 2 more moves of 2 bishop moves. Okay, so knight c3, guarding e4. Black is threatening to just come through in the center. Knight e6, a very aesthetic move, knocking white's bishop out of d4. Okay, and now here's the really funny thing. So let's just look at this position. White could have played bishop f2 right away, but that would have allowed black to play knight f4. Okay, and black is still pressing in this position. The bishop is blocking white's rook from defending the f4 square. Okay, so white played bishop e3 and black played knight g7. Now the knight can no longer come to f4, although it's threatening to go to h5 and pinning. And now is where white could have kept a clear advantage by playing bishop f2 to oppose black's knight h5 move to defuse it. And white has enough guarding e4, although I have to say, with the d5 and f5 breaks in the offing, this is very hard to see and play for white. To play passive moves that lock in your pieces when black has a lot of visual compensation of the pawn is very hard to do. And in fact, the engine has decided that white's game isn't in such great shakes after all. So white plays bishop e2 instead, intending to reroute the bishop, most immediately covering the h5 square that black's knight was threatening to come to. But now black is fine. And this is, according to the engine, a good enough attack. Black has reinforced f5. So now white plays bishop f2. And so black now attaches a very nice position. Black does not have an advantage here, but it's just very nice compensation for the pawn. And black does not have to panic or hurry the attack. So bringing the pieces back to their strong squares is good enough. And this, what also matters is the calculation of various endgames that can happen. So in particular, if white tries to simplify with bishop takes f5, okay, and then capturing on d8, it turns out, well, black can actually just capture with the bishop. And now the bishop is threatening to come to this diagonal. Black still has pressure on the other squares. White's d file is only hitting empty air. So white still has a lot of problems to solve, and black has two nice bishops. So anyway, white thought to get the pieces out, and now black simplified a little too early. Okay, so h5 could have been played to just keep the pressure on. But I'd say this is very natural play for black. If you're calculating that white can't play moves like queen takes d6, let's see why. Queen takes d6, what to f3 happens, of course. Yeah, f3 is killing. Black could even prepare it by going on c8. f3 is black's latent threat, and we'll see actually that that this could have happened in the game. Knight f3, bishop g3, capture, capture. Okay, and now, so here's, so what's going to happen is a very funny Zwischenzug. Okay, so king h8, a natural preparing move, getting away from bishop c4 being check and all that. Now the engine says that white should have just pushed the student body up on the queen side with a4 or b4. But this is very difficult to play, and it's natural for white to want to eliminate some of black's attackers. Okay, so so rook e d8, a nice move, and now this is where black has a Zwischenzug and should have played it. This is just a very nice little thing. So you're obviously potentially battling over the d file. Well, you can capture on d1. Now it looks like this is disadvantageous because you think white can just capture on d1 and now white controls the d file. But in fact, this is a move that gives black at least a perpetual check. Okay, so the rook is no longer guarding f3, and black has threats of bishop h7 check and queen takes g2 mate, and so you're not recapturing the bishop. This is sufficient counterplay right away. Okay, so the engine says that this draws. So therefore, white wants to keep a little bit of an edge. White has to capture with the knight, and now black is not too bad off in this position. Okay, white's not controlling the d file. So, so that's a little bit of tactics that that could have been seen, but it's not the main tactic. Anyway, bishop takes c6. Now white should have had the advantage. Okay. But white is best keeps the advantage by playing queen c5, putting pressure on e5, which keeps a lot of black at bay, and then white should be winning. This is a miscalculation of the ending. It also must be said that Gukesh was down to 2 minutes in this position, whereas MVL had a lot of time. And that means that this very deep tactic that we'll see in 5 moves is one that we absolutely could not have expected Gukesh to see. Okay, so rook c1, this is just battening down the hatches as black's rook comes into d7. Of course, black has enough compensation for the pawn here. Question is there more? Well, or maybe not. Maybe the game is more tactical. Well, black rushes forward to get the composition, the compensation. It's now going to become a race because white's a pawn is not easy to stop. And now here is the place where white made an obvious move that threw away the advantage. Okay, so it turns out that white should just go ahead with a6.
Mhm.
Instead, white captured on g4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, a natural move.
Mhm.
And the reason why white should not capture on g4 is that white needs to be able to play h3, h4 checkmate.
Hmm. Wow.
We wouldn't think, is
No
this really?
way. That's insane.
That's insane, right? Okay, well, the game continuation is very forcing, and we will see exactly why this should have happened. Okay, so white captured. Now we enter this forcing line of a queen race. Like I said, this game was a draw, but it certainly was not intended as a draw by either player. White's down under a minute, so white is just reacting here. There's a threatening checkmate. Only defense is to move the king over. Now black guards the rook, and now f2 check is going to happen, but white is a7, so here's f2 check. Now black does have to take a move to take white's rook. So here comes white's queen, but black cuts off white's queen from defending f1 with check, either or along the f file, as could happen if white ready to get too close with checks. But anyway, white goes bishop b7. White does win a pawn. Okay, and now here is the key moment of the game. In order to win this position, okay, white needs to be able to play king takes g3, and then after black gets a queen, play h3, h4, checkmate. Which it is if white has the pawn on h3 and black has the pawn on h5. Okay, so
Isn't that
apparently
something?
Dennis Monacruz, to some other people, have analyzed this, that indeed, without playing h takes g4, when you analyze it to full depth, white should definitely have been able to win. But this position is a draw because even though white is able to cover f1 and come out where white is the exchange behind, okay, nevertheless, and losing a pawn, in fact, losing both queenside pawns, this is nevertheless a book draw. And one important thing about this is I'll play the position with white losing the pawns. So now the question is, in a position like this, is it important to anchor a knight and defend your e4 pawn? Or is it important to have your knight attack black's e5 pawn? And the answer is the latter. It's also with a bishop, a light square bishop in this position. There are a lot of positions where you might stick the bishop on d5 and f5, think you're anchoring the pawn and can't lose. But black is able to infiltrate the king to d4 and f4, knock your king back, and get a position where black can take on e4, and with the king in front of the pawn, and especially if white can't play king e2 with opposition, it's winning for black. So, however, Gukesh knows what he's doing, plays knight takes knight to d3, and this is a fortress. Black has to keep one piece guarding e5, and that prevents black from being able to force white's king to retreat. So they
That's
try.
very nice.
In fact, MVL did not try. And just white has to know that king e2 is the opposition, and stalemate.
It's a moral victory for black.
Yeah, yeah. I guess so. Yes,
It's just
in Arabian chess, this would be a win, but stalemate is a loss.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very,
So,
very interesting. It's too bad that it's over because the tournament was just so interesting. Although saw too many draws, but that's part of the deal. Unfortunately, in classical chess, especially if you control like 2 hours and 30 seconds increments, it's very, very tough to win even a single game.
right. Yes,
But
it
still
is.
pleasure to watch. Great commentaries. So the entertainment or chess entertainment package, uh, it's a great deal. There's no doubts about that.
Yeah.
I like also rapid time control. In Blitz, unfortunately, the value of commentators is greatly diminished because the games are just too fast to
Yeah.
provide any meaningful commentaries. Repeat is a lot of actions, a lot of results in games, but this classical control like Zinfeld Cup is very, very. It's exciting chess on its top level. I think that level is almost equal to World Championship, or maybe even
Right.
supersede World Championship, especially if Carlsen is not part of the World Championship.
Yes, the accuracy anyway was above target in the position. The only thing this year's Sinkfield Cup lacked was for true first place drama. So
Yeah,
nothing
Right.
candidate.
Right.
So that's even with the Grand Chess Tour also on the line. Ferrugia had sewn that up before the last round. So, um, but nevertheless, it was a strong showing. Could have been a strong showing by Ding Liren. So at least through the first 6 games. Um, and I'll just say, not to leave the ladies out, an online tournament sponsored by Julius Baer is happening, and so a lot of attractive matchups. Vaishali playing the even younger prodigy Eileen Robers of the Netherlands, and she
mhm.
wound up an attack very nicely by playing Queen A4 check and Rook takes A2 mate. So it's nice when you're able to see these things. Blitz.
It's very interesting tournament. I agree with you, but in my opinion, the level of commentaries is way below the one at Zinfeld Cup, which is understandable. Cup commentaries is the top of the line. I don't think it could be exceeded very easily, but I wish it would be a little bit better
Yeah.
than this. But we got what we got.
Yeah.
It's,
Another story from the tournament was 14, 15-year-old, 14, I guess, Alice Lee narrowly defeating Sarah Kadam
mhm.
in a match. So that they play at 3 different speeds of blitz. And
Oh
she
yeah,
won the match 10-9. So,
amazing.
yeah. And we have Ho Yifan coming back as well. So
Mhm.
this is
Yeah, that's all. It's always nice to see her active. I don't know what her current position at the university in China requires of her in terms of whether she's teaching full time or whether or not they have her on staff for her guidance or so of prodigies there and
yeah.
allow her to participate. So
Yeah, I wish I were friends enough with her to ask her because she did go to Oxford and we connected
yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I don't really know her.
I mean, she certainly, if she wants to be a real academic, she is clearly credentialed and capable of being a real academic. So it's just a question of in that society and in that university, what are their expectations? Because she clearly could meet them all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she can do both, to be academic and to be a premier female chess player as well.
Right. Well, I had the opportunity to address the St. Louis Chess Conference in October. So I'll be able to talk with people who are doing player development and, well, the effect of health in particular is her angle. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
I would like to thank both of you, Ken and Dan, for today's program. And we'll see you definitely next week, same place, same time. Have a
Okay.
great weekend.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
All right.
Bye
Take care,
bye.
all.
Bye bye.